If you want freedom from suffering, you must be determined to practice regularly. And observe sensibly. Whether your practice is correct or not. If you occasionally visit the temple and listen to the teachings, and listen to teaching CDs at night, but have no mindfulness during the day, you will not get results. If you want to see results, you must practice regularly. Regular practice does not mean just practicing every day, but all day, as much as you can. So you need to practice not only every day, but all day long, to see results. The exception is when you need to do knowledge work. All other times are good to practice. This is why some people see results within just a few years, while others practice for 10, 20, 30 years without results. You can't simply count years. This is because their minds are mostly lost in thoughts. They concentrate only on daily formal meditation, and let themselves indulge in defilements for the rest of the time. By living that way, you won't be able to fight against the currents of worldly matters and defilements. If you are truly determined to be free from suffering, you must observe the body and the mind from the moment you wake up. If your mindfulness is not quick, start by observing the body. For example, know what position your body is in when you wake up. Arms above the head, legs spreading, or lying on the left or the right side. Be mindful as soon as you wake up. If the mindfulness is more refined, you will know whether the body is breathing in or out when you wake up. If you are very enthusiastic about practicing, you can see these things easily as soon as you wake up. This means you are used to practicing. The mind is accustomed to practicing. Knowing the body when you wake up is still slow. Quicker awareness knows whether the body is breathing in or out. An even quicker awareness is being aware of the moment the mind becomes awake. The mind moves out of slumber and gains consciousness. If you know as soon as the mind moves out of slumber, then the awareness is quick. Ones who wake up lazily, tossing their bodies around after waking up, planning to practice in the evening, will not succeed. If they think this is the time to stretch, but not to be mindful, then the practice is lacking. Their minds wander off more than being mindful. When you go to the bathroom, be mindful of your body and mind. If you can move bowels easily and are happy, know so. If you have difficulty with it and feel uncomfortable, worrying that you may need a bathroom break on your commute, know so, too. You can practice even in the bathroom. I used to hear people say that it was unwholesome to practice in the bathroom. It is not true. Being mindful means the mind is meritorious. How can it be unwholesome? It is unwholesome when you are not mindful. Being mindful is not unwholesome. While eating, be mindful. When the body sees and smells the food, this smell brings pleasure. That smell brings dissatisfaction. Whatever the mind feels, know it. When the food is in the mouth and you taste your favorite dish, you may hate the taste, and think that the cook is bad, and blame the cook. At first you are happy smelling your favorite dish. But as soon as the tongue tastes, anger arises. Unacceptable. How can this person earn a living as a cook? You can observe your mind when it reacts to senses. Whatever you do, observe the body and the mind. Keep observing while getting dressed, or commuting. If you are driving, don't enter an absorption, jhana, or samadhi. Be mindful and attentive. Be aware of external phenomena through your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Do not cause an accident. When you are stuck in traffic, you can observe the mind. If irritation has arisen because of the traffic, know so. Practice continuously. If there is no traffic and you feel happy, know so. When driving, pay attention to driving. Don't let the mind enter deep concentration. I have a student who remembered that I taught him to pay attention when driving. And not to enter deep concentration. I said wait until the car has stopped before observing the mind. Instead of practicing mindfulness, this person fell asleep at a red light. Totally unaware of the honking from behind. The mind entered absorption too deeply. This is incorrect. When you are interacting with the world, be fully aware. Do not let the mind go into absorption. You can regularly practice mindfulness in every activity. That does not require thinking or physical safety. Keep observing. And you can practice all day. When you arrive at the office, turn on the computer, and sip coffee. If you are happy, know so. Then you think of work and get stressed, know so. The mind that knows that it was stressed will become impartial. If the mind is still partial, know so. If you feel stressed, but the mind is impartial, that is good. Stress will disappear and be replaced by awareness. Mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. Then you concentrate on working. If you become bored, tired, frustrated, know so. Embed mindfulness practices in activities as much as possible. After work, return home. Do not go out drinking. The Buddha called this a papa ya mukha, the gateway to ruins. We are his students, so we refrain from it. Those who are not may go, but that is their business. Everyone has their own karma. When we are done with our work, we go home. Take a shower, take some rest to gain some energy. Then we practice, doing sitting or walking meditation. Every day, we start practicing as soon as we are awake. We embed practice into our daily life like this. I did the same thing. If my work was not urgent, I would take a restroom break every hour or so. I did not go somewhere else, because it would look strange. When I was walking to the restroom, I observed how the body and the mind worked. I could embed around 5 minutes of practice into an hour of my daily life. In 12 hours, I already practiced for an hour. 5 times 12 equals 60. This is significant. Every day, we waste so much time and complain that we are not successful in practicing. We actually practice so little. If we embed the practice into our daily life, we can practice a lot in a day. We will not say we do not have time to practice. Luangpu Pramote said, "If there is time to breathe, then there is time to practice. If we do not breathe, that means we are dead and unable to practice." So, having no time to practice is an excuse. If we embed practice in our daily life, there is always time. For example, if we take a bus, we do not have to drive. Just be careful with pickpocketing. We can practice by breathing and chanting Buddha. This is practice. If the mind is overwhelmed or exhausted, we can practice samatha, because we do not have to drive. If the mind has enough strength, cultivate wisdom. By seeing the mind reacting to phenomena that show up to our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, observe how the mind reacts. Start practicing when waking up. When you are back home, practice sitting or walking meditation. Do not get absorbed in worldly matters. Right before you fall asleep, you can practice samadhi. Breathe in, Bud, breathe out, Do. See the body lying, see the body breathing. The mind knows so in a relaxing manner. Do not resist sleep. If you are not skillful, the mind will gain concentration and become luminous, and you may not be able to sleep for the whole night. If it is only a night, it is fine, but if this continues for many nights, then the body can become tired. You need to know how to lower the concentration level. After some practice in sitting or walking posture, we practice in the lying position. If the mind turns luminous and does not become sleepy, you need to lower your concentration. Relax and ignore that home base of your practice. For example, if breathing is your home base, then ignore the breathing. As the mind remains luminous, peaceful, and relaxed, do not retain, hold on to, or control it. Soon you will fall asleep. But if you concentrate and control it, the mind will not fall asleep. So, if it is time to sleep, relax and fall asleep. If it is not sleeping time, and you have enough strength to practice, then practice in a lying position. The body is tired from standing, walking, and sitting all day. Practice in a lying position until you fall asleep. If you practice like this, when you wake up, you will immediately be mindful. This is because you practice until you fall asleep. The mind is peaceful and relaxed. When you wake up, you will know what posture the body is in, or feel the body breathing in and out. If the mindfulness is really quick, you will see the mind waking up from the sleeping state. If you can do this, it means you can practice continuously for all 24 hours. While you are asleep, you will also really rest. If you sleep with a concentrated mind, you will not be asleep long, but it will be sufficient. If the mind has rested enough, but is lazy and does not wake up, there will be dreaming. While dreaming, if you are skillful in practicing, sometimes you will be mindful and the dream stops. The mind becomes luminous and rests within brightness. After a while, the mind relaxes and falls asleep again. Practice every day until you are skillful. Mindfulness should arise automatically, and you can concentrate on any activities. You can work productively and happily instead of woefully. When you work happily, the result will be good, because of mindfulness and concentration. This applies to other activities besides work. Keep practicing. While doing household chores, see the body and mind work. Do this and you will not complain about not having time to practice. Those who complain are those who do not practice. That was why Luangpu said, "If there is time to breathe, there is time to practice." If you are mindful while breathing, that is already a practice. Keep observing every breath. Be reminded that for every breath, some life is spent, and death is steadily approaching. There is no need for a sophisticated practice. You can simply use breathing. Be conscious while breathing. See that our life is becoming shorter with every breath, for example. This is practicing mindfulness of death. We see the immateriality of the body, and it will soon come to an end. This is wisdom development. Just this simple practice can lead to the end of suffering. There are many ways to practice, but you can practice simply by observing breathing. Life depends on it. When the breathing stops, life ends. Observe this. Or see that life is shorter after every breath. The Buddha once asked the monks, "How many times do you think of death in a day?" Some replied, "Once before bed." He said that was careless. Some replied, "Many times, 7 times, 10 times." Still the Buddha said that they were all careless. The Buddha said he sees death in every breath. Before I met Luangpu, I read this part from the scripture and was confused. I didn't think that the Buddha lied, but wondered how he, who was very busy, could do anything else if he was mindful of death in every breath. After enough practice, you will see that there is death in every breath. If you have to work, then work. But as soon as you have time, see the body dying in every breath. Keep observing. And you'll be able to see this 100 times, 1,000 times, or 10,000 times per day. The number keeps increasing. The Buddha said that he sees death in every moment. Because he has finished his practice. His mind resides with the Dharma element. When he observed the aggregates, whether internally, or those of Prince Siddhartha, or those of other animals, he saw death occurring all the time. The mind that was fully enlightened would see Dharma. But we are not yet there. So we can see death 100 times, 1,000 times, or 10,000 times. While breathing, we see that this life is shortened after every breath. And we will not be negligent. Those who are negligent do not think they will die soon. They see death as a distant event. Keep practicing. Some people are faithful and diligent in practicing, but don't have wisdom. Some masters call this not having the aptitude. Consider whether what you are doing now is decumulating or accumulating defilements. Even sitting or walking meditation is an act of accumulating defilements for some. They are egoistic about practicing a lot, and look down on others. This is called practicing to accumulate defilements. It is unwise. If we are wise in practicing, our practice will not take long. So, if the practice is guided by wisdom, we will see the results quickly. Some people fail in practicing because they are too credulous. They practice to serve defilements because of their credulity or superstition, which is a defilement. When your practice is motivated by defilements, you end up with defilements and suffering. Some people are wise when their minds become luminous, and they are delighted with it. They wisely observe yoniso manasikan, and realize that the minds are stuck in emptiness, space, or luminosity. They know getting stuck there is useless. It is a fool's comfort. Be wise in practice. Without yoniso manasikan, your practice will be repetitious, difficult, and exhausting. It can, however, slowly lead to success. But with yoniso manasikan, you can progress faster. Yoniso manasikan, however, does not mean thinking analytically. It is observing whether the current practice is for reducing defilements and cultivating merits or not. Observe yourself. Some people have Buddhist Lent season's resolutions, forcing themselves to do this and that. If you have yoniso manasikan, you can observe why you do so. Some monks intend to follow some ascetic practices. If they have yoni-so mana sikan and know that they do so to train themselves, to train the mind not to adhere to sensual pleasures, then it is wise. They know the purpose of their Lent. They have yoni-so mana sikan. But, if they act because the Buddha, Venerable Maha Kassapa, or other masters said that this is good, unwisely following the practice may be driven by greed. It is not very good. But with persistence and patience, one day they may get it as well. So, we practice in our waking hours. Have yoni-so mana sikan to guide ourselves to reduce defilements and grow merits. Merits are non-greed, non-aversion, and non-delusion. Demerits are greed, aversion, and delusion. We observe whether we are cultivating greed, aversion, and delusion, or the opposite. When our mind is too greedy, we may need a little help. Just being mindful or cultivating wisdom may not be sufficient. So we need to practice by giving and donating. If the mind is so stingy, we give away help and materials. The mind will develop. Stinginess and demerits will decrease. At first, when we give away clothing or food to the needy, the mind might be tainted with defilements. We are greedy to gain merits from giving, and aim to be rich in the next life. But if we give and feel the joy of giving, this is meritorious. Merits bring happiness. When we see the recipients happy, we feel fulfilled. We do good deeds not for our own benefits. Instead, we find that, as soon as we do good deeds, happiness arises. Those who receive are also happy. We see that fulfillment grows in our mind, and we feel that it is something we should do. The deed makes ourselves and others happy. We do not do it to be egoistic, dominant, or become richer than others. The mind will gradually develop this way. At first it is okay to let defilements drive us to do good deeds. But keep on observing. When we do good deeds, we feel happiness. Some of us may notice happiness when we save fishes' lives from the cellar. But some people go fishing and feel happy when they make a catch. But the fish does not share the happiness. When we buy fish from the seller, we, the fish, and the seller are all happy. Happiness spreads widely. Keep observing. The mind will gradually become serene. Greed and selfishness will subside. When demerits lessen, merits grow. Those full of anger and agitation can practice by learning to look at others with kindness and empathy. This will allow compassion to replace anger. Many masters were hot-tempered. After they had become arahants, their minds were so full of compassion, even more so than ordinary people or other monks. Their minds had reversed from excessive demerits to merits. From severe anger to vigorous compassion. Their kind-heartedness spread it out, and made us feel peaceful just by thinking of them. Many masters were like that. They lived with the unbounded state of compassion, not the sublime state. The sublime compassion is like parents loving their children. It is limited to a target group. But the unbounded state of compassion has no limit. The unbounded compassion extends to all living creatures, and even former enemies. It sympathizes with their sufferings as well as its own. Some people have compassion for others but forget themselves. Do not forget that you are also a creature. So compassion will be thorough. Practice every day. Start from when you wake up. Follow the 5 precepts. Practice until you fall asleep. You will not complain that you do not have time to practice, because you practice almost all day. There was an old study showing that for an 8 to 10 hour workday, knowledge work occurs for only 4.5 hours. The rest of the time is spent lost in thoughts. How many hours are we awake? Let's say we sleep for 8 hours. Then, we are awake for 16 hours. Of that, 4 to 4.5 hours is spent for work. There are 10+ hours to practice mindfulness. We will not say that we do not have time to practice. We will not complain why others get results quicker than us, either. Those who have practiced for years, but are not productive, perhaps practice for 30 minutes before bedtime. The rest of the day the mind was lost in thoughts. How can they develop compared to those who practice 10+ hours a day? So, no need to be jealous of others if they practice well. There are 2 reasons why some excel at mindfulness practice. 1. They have already practiced a lot. It is like a vase that is almost full. It takes just a bit more water to be full. For those who have never practiced, they have to accumulate. So, previous merits can help the practice. 2. Current merits matter. Your success is determined by whether you practice correctly. Also, how much do you practice, if your practice is correct? If you practice sporadically, you cannot expect a good result. Developing defilements for 15 hours and practice for 30 minutes will not be sufficient, but is still better than no practice. It can develop into a habit. One day, after many Buddhas have passed, their strengths will become stronger, and practicing mindfulness will be easier for them. So, make a resolution to practice. As soon as you wake up until you fall asleep, whenever there is no knowledge work, be mindful. Stay with your home base. Observe the body while breathing out and in. Or be mindful of death in every breath. We die once when we breathe in, and another when we breathe out. We are gradually dying. Do it this way, and the mind will have the strength to relinquish worldly things. those preoccupied by the world. Vying for things are those who never think of death. If they knew they would die soon, they would not be in so much contention. Striving for wealth, power, prestige, and so on. These are meaningless. When they die, they lose everything they fought for. The fools are like that. They are tied up, exhausted, and busy with the world. They do demerits to obtain worldly possessions, harming themselves, harming and exploiting others. They step on others to reap benefits. They think they are smart ones exploiting the stupid. The most stupid ones actually are those who commit bad deeds. If they are not stupid, they will not commit bad deeds. But worldly animals are like that. We cannot change them. We change ourselves. When you have practiced for some time, you will see that this world is nothing but suffering. It is full of contention and hurting others. When you see that there is nothing but suffering, the mind will want to get away. The ones who have enough strengths will achieve enlightenment. The ones who do not will resolve not to be born in the human realm. Until the next Lord Buddha arrives. Resolve like so. When you do good deeds, be mindful and make that resolution. Our world has become uninhabitable. Oceans will soon rise. Everything is getting more violent and people are encroaching others. You can pray to be reborn in heavenly or Brahma realms, and not humans. If another Buddha has attained enlightenment, let us know so we can study Dharma again. When you are in heaven's realms, do not be negligent. Keep practicing and the results will come easier. There was once a monk who made a resolution to be born in the Brahman realm. He asked that, whenever a Buddha arose, he was to be reborn as a human. While he was a Brahmin, he practiced. So, keep practicing. Do not inhabit this world. Let others do. Around 30 years ago, a master said, he saw that many hell creatures had been born on earth. In the past 30 to 40 years, there were a lot of people who practiced and were moral. The master, however, mentioned that the hell creatures were emerging. They will make the world uninhabitable. He told us to practice mindfulness and stay away from them. There is nothing we can fix. It is time for them to dominate the earth. You can see that today, immoral people are everywhere. What is hell like? It is hot and restless. Have you noticed that life today is like that as well? People can suddenly cause social disturbances. They cheat and abuse others. There is no peace. And this is what the Master mentioned more than 30 years ago. Actually, he said more than this. But I will refrain from saying too much, as it might affect international relations. He also mentioned that in the past, we were in India. Where many meritorious people lived. The concentration of merits is luminous. Those who emerged from hell saw the luminosity, and their minds were attached to it. The Master said that we escaped to Thailand. But they came after us again. Now we need to flee to a higher place. If we have not yet reached Nirvana, we will practice there. We cannot change others. That is what they are. Some people do both good and bad deeds. For example, they have made donations and did charity work. So they become wealthy in this life. Their bad deeds can drive them to crave more. This is the world we live in. People, including us, have both the goods and the bads. But we can get better by practicing mindfulness. Refraining from committing bad deeds, and cultivating good deeds will make us better. For others, let them be. Karma will give the results to them for their own actions. Let us stop here before this turns into storytelling. Anyway, other younger masters also said that a very large proportion of people in this generation will go to hell. Returning to where they came from. The Masters warned us to run away to the upper worlds.
Number 1. I carry out all of my duties, but I am not happy with it. The mind is stressed and wanders off for a long time. The mind does not have strength. I practice samatha by breathing in Bud, breathing out Ho, while counting 1 to 100 and back. At first the mind seemed to have strength, but later it did not. Perhaps my mind is stuck in stillness. Please advise.
Your mind is stuck in samadhi and stillness. Let it move. Observe the body. And examine scalp hair, body's hair, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, ligaments, and bones. Each part is not lovely, not self, nor ours. Practice this way and the mind will be unstuck. Right now, it is stuck in stillness. And will not disengage. I tried tuning my mind to match yours and made a facial expression. So you can get what I meant. Now the mind is better. If it is stuck, you cannot develop. Disengage and withdraw to be here while being mindful. It is not bad to accumulate samadhi, as long as you practice further. What you practiced is a source of strength to make progress. Just do not get stuck. Keep observing the body. See how it is unlovely, impermanent, decaying, and not self. Its death awaits. Observe repeatedly so that the mind will not stay still. When the mind becomes scattered, practice samadhi. But when practicing samadhi, be careful not to lock up the mind. At first, you did not control the mind to be still. But when you practice correctly, the mind becomes still on its own. Then, you recognize what an unmoving mind was like, so you created an imitation. Do not intentionally make the mind still. Here, you are dozing off. Can you see it? When the mind is still, it becomes sleepy. Keep it awake. Do not lock it up inside. Come out and watch the body instead.
Number 2. My current objectives for practicing is to adhere to the 5 precepts and be mindful often. My mind gets lost in delusion for a long time, being dull almost all day. Please advise.
Practice in a relaxed and lively manner. Do not let the mind be lifeless. Keep practicing every day, and the mind will be happy and lively. While breathing, be mindful. When the mind is happy, know so. When the mind is lost in thought, know so. If the mind becomes tense while observing breathing, it means that you are controlling the mind. Heaviness is the result of controlling. Breathe happily. Do not control the mind while breathing. Observe the body breathing, with the mind as the observer. When the mind wanders off, know so. Focus your practice on seeing that mind that wanders off while you observe your breathing.
Number 3. My mind is stable more often, but it does not last long. When the mind is stable, I sometimes feel that things are not controllable, and the self is composed of the knower and what is being known. Mindfulness arises more frequently than before, though still sparse. Has my mind started to cultivate wisdom?
It has, but samadhi is not sufficient. So, wisdom cultivation is short. Do not make the mind dull. Samadhi is not a dull mind, but a mind that is aware of the body and mind. When the mind is lost in thought, it is not aware of the body and mind. When the mind is over-focusing, it is not aware of the body and mind, it is controlling itself. The mind is now lost in thought. It is not aware of the body and mind. From now on, practice and observe whether the mind is being aware of the body and mind. Observe this often, both samadhi and wisdom will develop. Your mind can cultivate wisdom easily. Once you have enough samadhi, progress will be quick. Do not try to freeze the mind like this. If this happens often, observe the body instead. See the body move and be mindful. It is better than letting the mind hold itself still.
Number 4. I use walking meditation and chanting as my daily 50-minute formal practice. I try to observe the body during the day. Sometimes mindfulness arises on its own, though randomly. Some days mindfulness arises often. Some days the mind is lost for a long time. Perhaps it lacks samadhi. Please advise.
Your practice is getting better. It is not bad. Practice consistently, and it will gradually progress. If you want quick progress, it will not happen. Why? Because wanting is greed. Like here, you are too controlling. Do not do it. If you are confused, know so. When confusion arises, there is no need to seek an answer. See that something has arisen and fallen. Confusion has arisen and fallen. Do not seek to observe. When the mind has moved to observe, know so. Your mind is capable. More samadhi will make for quicker development. Be aware of the body and mind. When the mind moves, know so. Practice this often. Here, the mind has moved into thoughts. Reviewing what I just told you. When the mind acts, know so. Mindfulness and samadhi will be better. Your mind is conducive to developing wisdom. So do not worry.
Number 5. I practice formally after waking up. I observe the body breathing. Sometimes I observe the breathing, but that makes me tense. So I observe the body breathing instead. At first I would be lost in thoughts for a long time before knowing it. Now I become mindful more quickly. I can also separate out the aggregates, but I am not sure whether it is only my imagination. Do I overfocus or get stuck in stillness? Please advise.
The mind actually sees the separation of the aggregates. When the mind is stable, the aggregates separate. But when the mind gets lost, the aggregates disappear, replaced by thoughts. Over-focusing on breathing like this will make you exhausted. Observe in a relaxed manner. See the body breathing, or see the body standing, walking, sitting, and lying. For your age, it is good that you observe the body. If you observe the mind, it will be hazy easily. So, observing the body is good, but do not overfocus. Like when you raise your hand up, know so. Now smile. You know the body is smiling, right? Can you see that when the body is smiling, the mind is also joyful? They are related. If you are skillful at observing the body, you will also be skillful at observing the mind. You are practicing well. Practice more.
Number 6. I practice formally by chanting and doing sitting meditation. The mantra and breath are my home base. I feel that I am mindful more often. During the day, mantras arise in my mind sometimes. The mind is scattered and lost in thought for a long time. I notice that the mind likes to criticize and clings to stubbornness, arrogance, and ego. When I observe the body, sometimes the body feels heavy and tense. When I close my eyes to practice sitting meditation, the mind falls half asleep. Please advise.
Move your body often. When the body moves, know so. If sitting still makes the mind half asleep, move your body and observe it. You are observant to be able to see the defilements that are difficult to see, like ego and arrogance. It is good that you see them. Move your body and know so. Using breathing is too delicate. It causes you haziness. The body is easier to know than the breath. Number 5. Let's come back to number 5 briefly. Do not be tense in practice. You will be exhausted, and will not get good samadhi. It is tiring and stressful. Number 4. Your mind has wandered off and is squirming. Number 3. Stop doing that. Come back and be aware of yourself. Number 1. You are pushing the mind up. Do you know so? Observe naturally. When you push the mind up and see phenomena changing, you see the phenomena correctly, but the pushed-up mind as an observer is incorrect. The mind is locked up.
Number 7. I am afraid of ghosts, so I have always prayed before bed for more than 20 years. I practice skillfulness wasi in meditation as well as wisdom development. I am more skillful at observing the body than the mind. I think I can see the aggregates separated. What I see often is seeing the mechanism of digging, pulling, cutting, and releasing something that is layer-like, strand-like, and resin-like in nature. The resin-like stuff is now thinner than before. I would like to ask whether what I am practicing is really vipassana, and hope you can give me advice.
Yes, you can practice vipassana. When any defilement arises, know so. For example, when your practice is going well, and you get egoistic about yourself, know so. Otherwise the defilement will fool you. Keep observing defilements. Do not hold the mind still like this. Let it work freely. Do not preserve it. Be mindful frequently, and mindfulness will safeguard the mind for you. If you try to retain the mind yourself, over-focusing will result. If you let the mind work freely and be aware of that, mindfulness will safeguard it. The mind will then be awakened and delighted. Now, you send the mind to observe things. When the mind moves, know so. Now you are reeling it back, and it is starting to feel tense. Know that you are reeling it in. Stop practicing. Now, this mind is good. Remember it. This one is correct. Previously, you fabricated something. But this one is the true knowing mind. The knower is not inside or outside. We do not try to retain the knower. Now you are trying to retain it. Can you see? Know so. Right here is perfectly correct. When you were smiling, the mind was correct. And when you stopped smiling, you started to overfocus again. Now you are smiling and overfocusing. Can you feel the tightness? If you overfocus, know so. Do not overfocus. Let the mind work. The mind has just moved, know so. Have a home base and keep observing the mind.
Number 8. I have enthusiastically followed your teachings for 5 years. I have seen bias, decay, progress, defilements, and defilements of insights delicately. I have the 5 precepts to guard the mind. I found Buddha for the first time when I saw boredom. I saw that defilements used the body to torture the mind, with physical suffering as the weapon. I saw samadhi helped reduce the impact. I saw that everything is simply form and formless aggregates that come and go. I saw delicate bias decay and found limitless happiness that does not belong to anyone. Please advise.
You do not need delicacy or much knowledge in practice. It is exhausting. Simply see something arises, stays temporarily, and then falls away. That is already enough. If you see too much, the mind will be scattered and tired. Just one key word: present. Know the present moment. Otherwise, the mind will overwork on wisdom development, and defilements of insight will arise. When you have defilements of insight, it looks like it is cultivating wisdom. But it is not, the mind is diffused. Just stick to the present.